right, let me just share my screen right here. Alrighty. So this is my handout on hand washing and hand washing stations. The objectives for this are for people. The objectives for this are for people to know how to wash their hands properly. Properly know when and where to wash their hands, because you can't just wash them anywhere in the kitchen, and prevent the spread of germs or contamination throughout the kitchen, because we don't want people to get contaminated, or we don't want our employees or even staff members. So the introduction. In today's class, we will be going over hand washing and hand washing stations. We will learn what a good personal hygiene program is, and we will go over the basics of it. We will also learn when and where to wash our hands. This includes proper places to wash our hands, because we can't just wash them anywhere. Like I said, it has to be a designated area for washing your hands. Sounds kind of crazy, but it is what it is. We will cover the 5 steps to hand washing. You'll find out there's people who will say there's 6 or 7 steps, but most people have these 5 main and basic steps to hand washing. It's pretty easy. The last thing we will go over is the requirements for hand washing station. After the lecture is done, there will be a worksheet to complete. So, as we all know, hand washing. As we all know, keeping clean and sanitized is very important, especially in the hospitality industry. This is probably one of the most important factors when it comes to the hospitality industry. You always got to keep your customers safe and sanitized. So if our hands are not clean, we put the customers at a very high risk of contracting the foodborne illness. Our hands touch many things every day that are covered with pathogens. You might not even know what you're touching. It may seem clean, but in reality, most of the time, there will be some type of pathogens on that object that you are touching. With this being said, we must make sure that our employees at Chellew's Cuisine are trained properly on every aspect of hand washing. So, always wash your hands, like this little sign says. Good personal hygiene program. What is it, and when are we using it? Creating a good personal hygiene program is essential for all hospitality services. This doesn't matter if you're a hotel or if you're a restaurant, because you're always serving customers constantly. You may be a whole hotel that's serving customers for breakfast or lunch or dinner or whatever it may be. All hospitality services need to have one of these. Therefore, we must always be practicing good personal hygiene. A good personal hygiene program is to make sure that everyone in your operation is practicing, well, good personal hygiene. Some of the things this program should include are training food handlers regularly. You always want to train them regularly, because if you just have a new employee that you hire, they may not know the certain aspects of this program, and you need to inform them on that. You always want to be modeling the correct behavior of good personal hygiene. You want to supervise the food safety practices, and you always want to revise these policies when laws change, obviously. If something changes, you want to make sure that your employees are informed about this. I'm pretty sure these laws did just change pretty recently, meaning a year or two ago. So if you haven't did that, your operation might want to retrain your employees. Shouldn't take very long, because it's hand washing and a lot of it is basic knowledge. So when and where to wash your hands, because you can't necessarily wash your hands everywhere, especially in the restaurant industry. When and where to wash your hands are 2 of the most important things in this lecture. Most people think they can wash their hands anywhere in the kitchen, but that is wrong. Hand washing must be done in a hand washing sink. This should not be done in a prep sink. Prep sinks are actually designated strictly designated for prepping food and washing dishes. Most people will have a dishwasher to wash dishes, but some people just have a prep sink and a three-section sink where it's wash, rinse, and dry. So most hand washing sinks will have a sign on them saying it is a hand washing sink. Food handlers must wash their hands when they are using the restroom or taking out garbage, touching their body or clothing, coughing, sneezing, blowing their nose, etc. Handling raw meat, poultry, seafood, or soiled items, taking out the garbage, handling animals or chemicals, which handling animals is pretty rare in most kitchens, depending on if you get livestock in or you're cutting it straight off the animal. Anyway, before beginning a new task, handling money or using an electronic device, or touching anything else that may contaminate their hands. Now, many people don't think to wash their hands after handling money because they're like, oh, it's money. But in reality, money has so many pathogens and germs on it because it's constantly being transferred from one person to another, and money is just always flowing. So, the 5 steps to hand washing. Like I said, the main 5 steps that most people include. Number one, you want to wet your hands and arms. You want to use running warm water. It should be at least 100 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer. Second step is to apply soap. You want to make sure there's enough soap to build up a good lather. You want to scrub your arms and your hands. Most people don't get their, you should probably go up to about your elbows. It may seem extreme, but food is everywhere in this industry. It's going everywhere. So you got to make sure what you're using is clean. You want to scrub your hands and arms for 10 to 15 seconds. You want to get under the fingertips, nails, and between your fingers. Most people miss their fingertips, nails, in between the fingers because they just go over their hands real quick and they're like, yada yada. They just go over them real quick and then they're like, oh, I'm good. But no, your nails are in fact extremely dirty, always have dirt and grime under them. So you have to clean them and make sure you hit those 3 parts. You want to rinse your hands and arms thoroughly. You also want to use warm running water for this, so you never really want to use cold water. You want to also dry your hands with a single-use paper towel or an electric dryer. It could be either or, just depends on the operation. Hand washing stations. Hand washing stations should be in every hospitality service, like I said. These stations should be put in every restroom and in areas that is used for food prep, service, and dishwashing. Hand washing stations should be able to be accessed at any time. That being said, there should be nothing ever blocking them, not a trash can, just anything in general should never be blocking them because they need to be accessed all the time. As I said earlier, the hand washing stations are only allowed to be used for hand washing and nothing else. Excuse me. There are other things in the kitchen that shouldn't be used, that should be used for prep or any other needs, like dishwashing. There should never be food thrown in these sinks, because then it'll just clog the sinks up, and then you're gonna have to get maintenance in there or fix them somehow. So just don't ever put food in a hand washing sink. First of all, it's not big enough. Second of all, that's not the right purpose for it. So just don't do it. Every hand washing station should have barriers around the sink to prevent cross contamination. They also must be a safe distance away from food prep so that way water or soap doesn't splash or contaminate the food or whatever is being prepped. Mainly these are on the left and the right side, just little couple inch barriers. Now the requirements for hand washing station. There's 5 basic requirements. The first requirement is that they must have hot and cold running water. This water has to be drinkable and it has to meet the pressure requirements and also the temperature requirements, which are 100 degrees Fahrenheit. All hand washing stations must have soap. Doesn't matter what kind of soap it is. It could be bar soap, it could be a liquid, or even a powder. There must be a way for employees or whoever is using the hand washing station to dry their hands. Like I said, it could be single use paper towels or it could be an air dryer or electric dryer. But the paper towels always have to be stocked. So you always want to keep an eye on that if you're using them. And it is the air dryer for the electric or air dryers should never be cold air. There also must be a garbage container. Now this isn't really required, but if you're using paper towels, then it does because you need to throw the paper towels out somewhere. You can't just leave them there. These trash cans should be used to throw out paper towels or gloves. The food should not be thrown out in these trash cans. First of all, why would you bring food over to a small trash can that's just as much towels in it? It just doesn't make any sense. The last thing that is required is a sign. This sign should specifically say, employees must wash hands before returning to work. This should be in both English and Spanish, considering most operations have people who may speak Spanish. This sign should be visible and it is normally placed right above the sink. And it looks like this. Most of them are black and they say this same exact thing, but also in Spanish. Now, the last part of this is the worksheet that I created that was handed out at the beginning of the class. You just want to answer the 5 easy true, false, or short answer questions about hand washing and hand washing stations. Now, what are the 5 steps to hand washing? Explain them thoroughly. The next one is a true, false. You should scrub your hands for 20 to 30 seconds. The next one is, what is the required temperature for hand washing sinks? The fourth one is, when should the good personal hygiene program be changed? And the last one is, list 5 examples of when you should wash your hands. And this concludes our lecture for hand washing and hand washing stations. So, thank you.